Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then welcome. This is really my first overly political post, I would guess. I try not to get into politics because it's a huge mess. Somebody's going to be irritated at somebody else and they're going to come after me in the comments saying, why would you do this? Why would you say this about this guy? Why wouldn't you say this about that guy? And really, I just don't have the energy for it. So if you're going to bash me in the comments, then go ahead and click off now, because I'm not really going to pay that much attention to any bashing. So you've picked the wrong audience to do that in. But I will say that there will be certain things said that you might not agree with. And guess what? That's okay. First of all, I thought the way they did the debate was excellent. I have for years stated that they should mute mics when it's not their turn to talk, that they should not have an audience who can interfere with their 2 minutes by clapping or hooting and hollering or booing or whatever, that it should just be the commentators and the candidates. That way they get their 2 minutes, cut them off. The next minute goes to the other person to rebut whatever the first guy said, and back and forth. But when you cut off the mics, that little bickering that you have goes away, because you can't hear the bickering. You can see it on their face because it's a split screen, but I really loved how they did it. I wish they would keep that up and do more debates like that, because when I sign in to watch a debate, I want to hear them speak. I want to hear what they have to say and how they say it. And it's hard to do that where you have other candidates talking over them and trying to interrupt them. You have audience members hooting and hollering and clapping or whatever, and you got to wait for it to die down. And then when does the 2 minutes truly start and end? But how CNN handled it, I really like how they did that. Now, as for how the candidates did, they needed a little work. Biden needed to have an adrenaline shot or something. I know I've heard that he refused to take a drug test before the debate, and that was probably because he was on some kind of speed or whatever to wake him up. It didn't kick in soon enough, I don't think. He was still highly incoherent at times. He mumbled. He didn't really answer the questions as concisely as he could, and he had a week or two of nothing but prep, nothing but debate prep, and this is what he brought to the table: his incoherency, his dazed and confused look when he wasn't speaking, with his mouth open and I don't know where I am. Joe Biden had to help him off the stage, and when he came onto the stage, he did his infamous "is this where I go" point, and he used "by the way" a lot. That's the one thing you could understand coming from him. By the way, and then it would trail off. Now, on the other side, Trump, he reiterates himself a little too much. He always congratulates himself a little too much. But you could understand what he was saying. He was more concise, and his thought process was present. He didn't mumble through things and lose his place or whatever. He was able to come back to points that Biden had said, and then turn around and answer the question And yes, he was prompted, okay, by the way, we asked you this, and, you know, do you want to answer the question we asked? They got on some kind of pissing contest about the golf games and carrying golf bags and what have you, and the fact of the matter that Trump slept with someone he wasn't supposed to. I don't know if I can say what kind of star she was, but we all heard it. And, you know, those tangents needed to be squashed a bit. They had nothing to do with what the candidate will do for you if they were to get elected. There was a lot of finger pointing, and what I had the biggest problem with is Biden blaming Trump for the response on COVID and the borders problems. I don't think those two things were a disaster under Trump. Trump was building the walls. He was saying no to these people flooding into our countries. He was getting the COVID tests and shots ready, and no, it wasn't as big a deal as the Democrats made it seem. It was really bad, and yes, people died. I won't deny that. People die from the flu every year. The flu can be just as serious, and I know a lot of people disagree on how bad COVID actually was and how it was handled, whatever. Trump was on his way out of office after his term when all of that took place. Biden is the one who forced the shutdowns, and then he turned around and said he gave out 15,000 jobs or whatever. He created 15,000 jobs. No, people were going back to work after the shutdowns. That's not creating new jobs. That's filling the jobs that were abandoned because of his mandates. And there's a distinction there. You can either create jobs, which means you have 10 jobs, you create 20 more. That's creating jobs. If you have 10 jobs and tell those 10 people you can't work anymore, you have to stay home because of this sickness that's going around, and then later on say, okay, come back to work, and you create those 10 jobs being filled by the people that probably had them in the first place, and maybe a few more. That's not a massive job creation that he made it seem. He overinflated what he did, and I won't even say what he did right, because I think the whole presidency has been a complete washout. How we left Afghanistan, I believe it was. Again, I'm not super political. I don't keep up with the news as much as I should because it's depressing. And that's on me. But when we pulled out of Afghanistan, we left billions of weaponry, of tanks, and all kinds of things behind. We left people behind. People were killed in that department. And that's completely been whitewashed. We don't really talk about that because it's a stain on Biden's record. We don't talk about the border problem being a Biden problem. Trump was keeping people out. He's not at fault for all of these hundreds of thousands of migrants coming into the country and taking over major cities like New York City and so on and so forth. Trump had nothing to do with that. But yet Biden is turning around and trying to blame Trump for the problems with illegal immigrants. And he would turn around and say, well, you kept them in cages and separated children from their mother. And most people that came across the borders were not mothers and children. And if they were, there's been a lot of people that shipped their kids over without the parents. So what are you going to do with these kids? And it was complete mess. That's what it was. I don't agree with everything that was said on Biden's side. I don't agree with everything that was said on Trump's side. We have two candidates that are less favorable than previous presidential elections. It's basically picking the one you can live with. Now, I don't think Biden is coherent enough to finish out his term, much less be elected to a second term. I don't think he was coherent when he was elected. He's been a puppet for the Democrats, and the Democrats refuse to see that. So I'm a bit confused as to why they would put him out there and allow him to even run at this point. I really think there should be an age limit. Now, Trump is just a few years younger, but he's very coherent. He knows exactly what's going on. And in the midst of all of his turmoil with the cases in court and the indictments and the court cases and all that mess, he still showed up and he was still able to bring up some excellent points coherently. He didn't have a week of nothing but debate prep, and this is how well he did. Biden had a week of debate prep, and you couldn't tell. It was embarrassing. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of Democrats out there will still vote for Biden because they're diehard Democratic, and they're willing to run our country into the ground to avoid the Orange Man taking office. I don't agree with that. You should vote for the best candidate, period. Actually, now, they seem to take my opinion on how to handle a debate. Now let me tell you how I would run the election. You have a list of what each candidate has accomplished and what they are promising. Because let's face it, politicians, to get elected, promise you the world. And a lot of the United States citizens, me included to a point, don't know exactly what goes into being president, what goes on behind closed doors, and what goes on in government, period. We're just voting for somebody we like or dislike, or avoid voting for somebody we dislike as much as that's possible. I think we should vote on the issues. Now, if for example, Biden says, okay, I'm pro-abortion, and Trump says he's pro-life, instead of putting Biden and Trump on the ticket, you put whether you are pro-life or pro-abortion on the ticket. That's how you vote. You vote on the issues, not the person. Because obviously we've shown that the person doesn't really matter at this point. They are willing to put a dead man walking on stage who trips over everything, who can't put a coherent sentence together, who walks around like a toddler and has people show him which direction to turn when there's only two choices. So if we could put somebody like that in office, it doesn't really matter anymore whether you can speak eloquently or not. That's been proven with the last almost 4 years of the presidency. So I say we vote on the issues. You, as a candidate, write down what you are for and what you are wanting to change or implement. And it's just a list. Tick it off. Do you agree with this or that? And at the end, it's all, I mean, you know, it's not like this is the Republican view, this is the Democrat view. Mix it up, make it fair. Just say, you know, pro-life, pro-abortion, pro-taxes for this, pro-taxes for that. You know, everything they promise, everything they want to accomplish, everything they've done. Just list it sporadically and have the person vote on what they agree with. That way you're not voting for a candidate. You are voting for the issues. Because the issues and what they're going to do in office is what matters most. It's not whether they look good on TV, and apparently it's not how they can speak or walk. So why don't we just vote on the issues? I think that would be interesting to see who would be elected under those circumstances. So that's my big idea. I think instead of having, do you want this person or do you want that person, you just list the issues and where a certain candidate stands. Not naming the candidate, just where they stand. And see what gives. I think that would be an awesome, almost blind vote. Unless you're, you know, one of those news junkies that really pay attention to all of the news that's out there, and you watch all of the debates and read all the newspaper articles and all the internet stuff, and, you know, really keep up. So you know, okay, well, I know Trump said this and I know Biden wants that. But to the average American, we don't keep up with that. We end up voting who we like, or voting against somebody we dislike. The lesser of two evils. I think we should vote for the issues, not the person. And maybe we would end up getting something done. What do you think about that? I'm really intrigued. And I mean, please, like I said, I'm not overly political. I don't know the specifics of each candidate. I will admit that. This is just my personal opinion, which I'm more than entitled to have. You are entitled to your personal opinion. So if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you have something intelligent to say, then by all means, share it with everybody else. But what would you think about having to vote for the issues rather than the candidate? Do you think that would make a positive difference in the way our country is going? I think that is a perfect solution, because we all want certain things. But like, you know, Jay Leno and Jimmy Fallon and all those kinds of people, they usually go out and say something along the lines as, Trump believes this, do you agree? And they say, well, no, I believe the opposite. I think Biden is a better candidate. And then what they don't tell you is Trump didn't say that. Biden did. It's just proof positive that people are not really, they're not really as educated as the voters need to be to make this decision. So instead of saying Trump or Biden, you list the topics. You list what each candidate wants to do. And if your views and your thoughts align with overly one candidate or the other, then that is the candidate that wins. And you won't know until they read it out on the news. I think that would be perfect. course, they're not going to listen to me. I mean, I don't even know that much about government, but I think that would be a fair and equitable way to vote for the next president. Let me know your thoughts. I'm interested. And it's going to be an interesting next few months, I must say. So, we'll see. All right. Bye, guys.